everyone, and welcome back to our series on Japan on our trip in 2024. Today I'm going to take you through the various options that you have at the port of Shimizu, what you can do, what we did, and what not to do. I'm not one for making a big hook at the beginning of the video to stay to the end, but you'll want to stay to the end for this one. So firstly, let me take you back to the day after where I introduced this video. Good morning from Yokohama, Tokyo, Japan. This is our last day. We're getting off the ships shortly. It's 6:30 in the morning. But before we go about today's adventures in Tokyo, I need to tell you about yesterday. Yesterday we got a taxi to a kayaha rental. Bizarrely, we met our Australian friends there. They'd happened to go to the same car rental, but they were using a guide for the day. The receptionist helped us, and we discovered our driving licenses weren't international. I don't know when that changed, but I always thought that our it's 6:30 in the morning, sorry. I always thought that our licenses covered us around the world, but clearly not. So they saw us having this dilemma and said, oh no, come with us, it'll be fine, So we went off for the day. We were more or less doing the same itinerary anyway, to go and see Mount Fuji. So we ended up in the car with their guide and they took a hire car, and then there was more space for everybody. It was a fantastic day. You can see it all here. But ended quite dramatically with a pier run. Yes, we became those people that got cheered on the pier, but not only by the hordes of people on their balconies, but by all the locals that had congregated at the pier all day to celebrate Quantum. So it was all them as well. I nearly took the camera out to film it, but I was so stressed I didn't. Luckily, Leanne, one of our Australian friends, got some portrait footage, so I'll pop that in here somewhere. I'm not proud. It was a public holiday yesterday, so the roads were especially busy, and our guide, God love her, thought everything would be fine, even though he kept telling her, no, it won't be fine. We're going to be late. We had to call the port agent to let them know. Shortly after we got on board, we could hear the fireworks going off as we were leaving. Anyway, what's otherwise been a perfect cruise, and logistically everything's just gone to plan. We ended with that, so not the greatest achievement in life. We can look back and laugh, but in all seriousness, it would have been well within the captain's rights to just leave. And in fairness, there could have been worse places to have been left behind. It wouldn't have taken us 5 minutes on a bullet train to get to Tokyo to meet the ship here this morning to pick up our bits and pieces, but that's not the way you want to end your cruise. So we did get back on board last night, had a quick drink, slice of Sorrento's, and then that was it. Bed. We were absolutely exhausted. Shimizu is on the northern end of the Izu Peninsula and is the best port for taking a day to view Mount Fuji. Your options really are to take a shore excursion, a taxi, a local tour, or a do-it-yourself, which is what we generally tend to do. I think a lot of people could be anxious about doing such a thing in Japan, where it's a completely different language, but honestly, it's very simple. As long as you're a little bit brave, you're going to have a fantastic day viewing Fuji-san. Any new cruise ship into the port of Shimizu gets one hell of a reception. It was quite mind-blowing, really. We docked at 10. We were there from 10 till 7, which is quite a nice amount of port time. So as we were pulling up and waiting for clearance to get off the ship, the local town were putting on a show for us. The decks were absolutely crammed with us all trying to get a peek and see what was going on. The whole port area was filled with local people, local school children, who put on an absolutely fantastic band performance. There were food stalls. As you'll see in the video, there were plenty of people there selling shore excursions. You were spoilt for choice. You could get a taxi that was a charter. You could just make your own itinerary up and tell them where you wanted to go. Everything was sorted out before you left. I was in never any fear that you were going to get scammed at all, or, you know, have an inflated price. Taxi prices aren't as high as I was led to believe, so do bear that in mind also. So we went up to a desk with a very helpful lady and translator who could get us a one-way taxi. There's a separate queue for one-way taxis, so we could get to the car hire office. I'd pre-booked this online before we left. I didn't pay anything up front, which was good, but just agreed that we would get the cute little box car for the day, which I was really excited about. And it was around £50 for the day, which I thought was, compared to a shore excursion, you know, and to do things in your own time is just fantastic, really. And they said, no, you can't hire a car because it's not international. Devastated. But like I said, amazingly, our Australian friends were there and we just jumped on with them. So what I'm going to do now is show you the route we took, the places we went to, but along the way, also other places that I had looked into beforehand, which would be suitable to have great views of Fuji. Obviously, if you are going to hire a car, make sure you have enough data on your phone so you can use Google Maps to plot your destination. The roads are fantastic over there. As soon as you get out of the town, you're onto dual carriageways, and there's a road that more or less goes all the way around Mount Fuji and back again. So there's plenty of things to do en route. The first thing that you might want to do on that trip is to stop at a Shinto shrine, which is called Fujisan Hongu Sengen Taisha Shrine. I'll put the screenshot of Google Maps here for you, and I will pop links to all of these in the description below. Next on the list is the Shirito Falls. Sorry, I'm probably not pronouncing that right. That looks a stunning place to stop en route. The nearby lakes are recommended also, and the first one would be Lake Tanuki. It's got an observation deck there. So as we were driving along, there were just fantastic views of Fuji, and the guide gave us some interesting information. The first place we actually stopped at was called Saikonishi, a model village in Saikonishi. It was, I've got the thing here, so we got a map. It was full of homes as they would have been back in the day. There were exhibitions going on, pottery studios, people selling honey and fruit. Again, views fantastic, and it was just interesting to see things as they would have been. We also met with a local artist who was very famous. Our guide was so excited that she got to meet him, and his illustrations were fantastic. He does covers for, I think, magazines or posters. He was there doing a talk for some local people. From there, we hopped into our guide's stunning car. I just loved it. And we went around Lake Kawaguchi. This looked like a super spot to hang out for a few hours and explore. There is a rock there called the Rusu Rock, and that, again, from my research before the holiday, I thought that was a fantastic place to stop. But next we stopped at a restaurant, Konami, that was on the banks of River Kawaguchi. Our guide recommended we have the Shingen Hoto noodles, which were like a flat udon in a miso broth. It was amazing, truly. And here's me desperately trying to use my chopsticks. I'm still not very good at it, but we'll get there one day. The noodles were supposedly, the name of the noodles supposedly comes from a local warlord, Takeda Shingen, who ate the noodles before he went to into battle.
Cheers it.
Across the road from the restaurant, we could go onto the shore of the lake, and we took a few photographs there. It was such a beautiful day. On the whole holiday, actually, the weather was stunning, and this was like the middle, coming up to the middle of October, so we didn't quite know what to expect, but it was absolutely incredible. Our next stop was Oshino Hakkai, which is a scenic village with 8 ponds that has been given World Heritage status. There used to be a lake there, but with all the seismic activities, the lake kind of ran dry. And now there are just like 8 ponds, springs of water that come up. So the water comes down from the mountain, Mount Fuji, and goes through all the lava and then comes up, and it's one of the purest, cleanest waters in the world. Even NASA have taken some of that water up to space to experiment with making snow with it. This was touristy, but still delightful. There were little souvenir shops, lots of places to get something to eat, some kind of street foods and desserts. Our guide talked us through some of the ponds and the legends that have been associated with them, which was very interesting. There was a place where you could wash your hands with the clean water, some kind of spiritual place. And we spent a good hour pottering around there. We could have spent longer, but we decided that it was getting a bit later now and we would be better off getting back to the ship. Our lovely guide wanted to take us up to the first base of Mount Fuji, but we absolutely did not have time for that, so we had to put a stop to that. It's a whistle stop tour now to make sure we get back to the ship on time. It's a national holiday, as I said, so the roads are really busy. So we're just hoping we've got a clear run back to Shimizu. I'm sure we'll be fine. The sat-nav, any ordinary day, would say it was going to be 1 hour and 15, 1 hour 30 back to the port, and the roads were horrendous. Panic started to set in quite quickly. The sat-nav went from it's going to take 1 3/4 hours to 2.5 hours. It kept going up and down and up and down, so we were trying to keep our cool. We were in communication with the guys in the other car, and it just wasn't getting any better. So Kylie in the other car phoned up the port security, which luckily I had taken notice of at a talk on the ship where we could get that information. I'll drop that down here. You can find the number for the port authorities on your app in case you need it, and we needed it. The time on the sat-nav started getting longer and longer. Kylie in the other car, she called the port authority, and they got in touch with the captain to see if he would wait for us. At the time, it was just horrendous, the feeling of just being those idiots. Anyway, so we were obviously the last ones on the ship. Even more devastating was not only the fact that everybody on their balconies were shouting and booing and whatever, like everybody does on with pier runners. There were still lots of people on the pier as well, celebrating Quantum of the Seas being in port, with still more activities, and then they were waiting for a fantastic firework display. So we had people both sides cheering as we were running back onto the ship. I've got some footage here which I'll put in. Jim was on first, then followed by me, guided by a port agent, and then you can see the 4 Aussies behind us running. Honestly, it was so stressful. You can smile about it now, but it's not funny. Cruise ships can't afford to stay in port any longer because it is about money. Our poor guide really didn't understand that fact, and bless her, she stuck to the speed limit. But anyway, she was a really lovely guide, and she got us back safely in the end. So all's well that ends well. But yeah, I just never thought we'd be those people. So with that being said, I hope this hasn't put you off hiring a car and doing your own shore excursion. Just take into consideration if it's a public holiday and if there are roadworks. So as you're driving out of the city, you know, you can make a note, and you should be able to tell these things off Google Maps as well. So always give yourself plenty of time to get back to the ship. Well, I hope this has been useful for you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video, which will be all about our arrival in Yokohama, checking into a hotel, and then our day in Tokyo. We had 1 day, so we wanted to cram in as much as we could. See you in Tokyo.